Brothers who are going to get married, those of you who are going to get married, this is the Prophet's answer. When he was asked, what is the best woman? Listen what he said. The Prophet is going to define the best woman. So if you're going to get married, look for this. He says, brothers and sisters, you can sometimes lose your job. You can have a bad life out there. Everything can be crumbling. You have that wife at home in your corner, taking care of you, obedient, nice, kind, good, and everything. Tranquility. Let's take it from the seerah. First of all, look at the hadith. The Prophet said, "Ad-dunya mata' wa khayru mata'iha al-mar'atu as-salihah." This dunya is a short period of joy. It's not long, it's not permanent. But you know what the best joy is in this dunya? The Prophet, he said, "Al-mar'atu as-salihah," a righteous wife. A wife that will push you when you don't pray Qiyamul Layl. She says, "Ittaqillah." How are you not praying at night? When you don't fast Mondays and Thursdays, she says, "Look, I thought you were fasting today." Pushes you to fast. A wife that tells you, why do you keep going to the masjid when the iqamah goes off? Why don't you go there when the adhan goes off? A wife that keeps pushing your boundaries and saying to you, do more and more and more. Al-mar'atu as-salihah, a righteous wife. The Prophet told us in the hadith, the woman that she wakes up before her husband and she takes a sprinkle of water and she sprinkles it in his face and she says, wake up, pray Qiyamul Layl. A righteous wife. If you have that type of wife, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her and make dua for her and appreciate what you have. She's raising your children according to the religion. Your child has learned the Surah Al-Fatiha. Ayatul Kursi a'zamu ayatin fi kitabillah. She taught that your child to make dua, kiss on the forehead. Al-mar'atu salihah is rare. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the night that Jibreel, or the day that Jibreel came to him, and he said, Iqra. He said, قال ما أنا بقارئ. قال اقرأ. قال ما أنا بقارئ. Read. And he kept repeating it, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam at the end was given the verses. The Surah Al-A'la. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي خلق. يعني the verses came down. Who was it that he ran to and came home to? Allah, Khadija. What did she do? Al-mar'atu as-salihah, righteous wife. He was shaken up of what he just saw. Sah? Who was it that reassured him? إِنَّكَ تُقْرِئُ الضَّيْفِ. You look after the guest. She reminded him of good qualities. At the time he had self-doubt. He was questioning himself. Am I really losing it? What did I just see? She made him feel calm. She didn't say, you're crazy. What did you just say you saw? You said you saw an angel? Quran came down on you? You're crazy. She didn't say that. She did two great qualities. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her. Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, mar'at salihah, a righteous wife. She did two things for him. She gave him words of comfort. This is the Prophet of Allah. Allah is already going to strengthen him subhanahu wa ta'ala, but look at her words. She reminded him of his good qualities. You do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. Once she reassured him and وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, صح? Say to the people good, right? She said good words to him. Then she said, I have another benefit I want to share with you. She said, she grabbed him by the hand, her husband. She said, I have a cousin, and I'm going to take you to him, and he's going to give you a proper advice on this issue. And she took him to Waraqat ibn Nawfal. Nabi Muhammad never forgot about Khadija. He never forgot about her, radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Aisha, she said, I was never jealous of any of the wives of the Prophet. Keeping in mind, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she saw all the other wives. Sauda bint Zam'a was the only one before her in her polygamous marriage. The rest of the other wives, she was there. Sah? She saw them. The Prophet loved Aisha on a level he didn't love any other woman, right? Do you all know that the Prophet's wives, they had two groups? The wives of the Prophet were two camps. Yes, the hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. The wives of the Prophet were two hizb. Hizb Salama and the hizb of Aisha. That's what the narration mentioned. Are we all together, brothers? They even had a quarrel one time as two groups. Let me tell you the story. Our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when the Prophet was in her house, the Prophet would always receive gifts. He would receive gifts when he's in Aisha's house. All the other wives, they won't. The Prophet won't receive gifts in their house. And the Sahabas would only do it when he's at the night of Aisha's house. They'll come, give the gifts. So the Sahabas became a bit upset by the Sahabiyat, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ became upset. That's not fair. Why is he always receiving gifts at the house of Aisha? What about us? Why not us? So they spoke amongst themselves, the other camp, and they said, we need to address this issue to the Prophet. So they sent Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha. They said to Salama, you go and speak to him about this issue. She said, I will, no problem. Salama went radiallahu ta'ala anha, she spoke to the Prophet about it. She said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this is not fair. You only receive gifts in the house of who? Our Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And when you're with our house, nothing comes to you. This is it not? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam ignored Salama. Second time, she brought it up again. He ignored it. He didn't want to address it. Then Salama, she came back to the other wives and she said, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't respond to me. He didn't say anything. They said, okay, do it when he comes to your night. So the night when he came to her house, she addressed it to the Prophet ﷺ again. He also tried to avoid it. When she repeated it again and again and again, he looked at her and he said to her, Wallahi, Salama, Wallahi, Jibreel did not come to me with the revelation in the bed or the house of someone other than Aisha. It is only Aisha's house that Jibreel came to me with revelation. In other words, Aisha has something over all of you. Do not, talk to me about this issue. Salama, she said, Ya Rasulullah, please, I apologize, forgive me, I shouldn't have brought this up. Astaghfirullah, I ask Allah for forgiveness, and she didn't. The other women are waiting, right? So when she comes back, they say, hey, what did he say to you? She said, look, I spoke to him, I'm not going to bring it up to him again. They said, no, this is not a good answer. We need an answer from the Prophet. We want this to stop. Then they made the decision to send Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet. Fatima, can you go and talk to your dad? She said, no problem. She came to her dad and she spoke to her dad. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya Fatima, la tukallimni fi sha'ni Aisha. Do not speak to me about the issue of Aisha. Do not bring this up to me. This harms me. He said, Aisha, Fatima, do you want to harm me? Don't bring this issue up to me. She said, Dad, forgive me. And she came back to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. She told them that I spoke to the Prophet. They said, no, please go back again. And she said, no, I'm not going to go back. Then they said within themselves, hey, who's going to go? Zainab bint Jahsh said, Zainab said, I'm going to go. I'm going to speak to him. I need to say this. This needs to be addressed. Zainab came to the Prophet ﷺ, and our mother Aisha was sitting there. When Zainab walked in, Zainab raised her voice very, very high. And she said what she wanted to say. And the Prophet was silent, not saying anything. Then he looked at our mother Aisha, and Aisha, she said, I realized he was giving me permission to talk. And the Prophet looked at Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, because Zainab, she was angry and she was also harsh to our mother Aisha. And she would say very harsh things to Aisha, but Aisha was there. So the Prophet looked at Aisha. Aisha said, I looked at the Prophet and I realized he was giving me permission to talk. Aisha, she said, I started to speak. And I spoke, and I said my bit, hatta askattuha, until I silenced Zainab. She couldn't respond to me. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he laughed. He said, Wallahi innaha binti Abi Quhafa. Wallahi, she's the daughter of Abu Bakr. She's like her father. Wallahi, she is from him. Yani Abu Bakr. The point I want from the story is that the Prophet loved Aisha. Everyone knew that he loved Aisha. Aisha knew that the Prophet loved her the most. The Prophet told everybody that he loves Aisha. This was public knowledge. Sah? With that being said, Aisha said, I was always jealous of Khadija. And I never met her in my life. That was the only woman he would always mention. And one day he mentioned her in the presence of our mother Aisha. She said, Ka'annaka, it's like as though you've never seen any other woman, and you've never been, Aisha saying this, that you've never seen any other woman, or you've never been married to any other woman except Khadija. And then he looked at me and he said, Wallahi innaha hi. Wallahi, she is this, and she is this, and she is this, and she's the mother of my children. All of his children, majority, all of them, they came from who? Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, except Ibrahim, who came from Maria al-Qibtiyya. The rest, they came from who? They came from Khadija. So why am I mentioning this? Khadija falls under az-zawjah as-salihah, righteous wife. If you have a wife who is righteous, you could lose your job. You come home, she will say, Subhanallah, for 10 years you've been providing for us. Now you lose your job and we don't have money and anything. Khalli wali. Allah will provide. Your provision is in the sky. Allah will not forsake us. She will say to you, but make sure you look for halal for us. Like in the one who's not like that, she will say to you, no, we need to take money from the bank. We can't live like this. You see, I kept telling you, take that house on mortgage. You never listened. Now if we had that house on mortgage, and she'll take you down a dark road and etc. A righteous wife. The Prophet, look what he said, and this is the righteous wife. This is the wife that will give you tranquility, brothers. Those of you who are married, you're already in trouble. Those who are not married, you can make your decisions now, inshallah. May Allah protect our wives for us and preserve them. The Prophet was asked, Ayyun nisa'i khayrun. Brothers who are going to get married, those of you who are going to get married. This is the Prophet's answer. When he was asked, what is the best woman? Listen what he said. The Prophet is going to define the best woman. So if you're going to get married, look for this.